And then I almost forgot, and my sincere apologies. To set this conversation started, I will be inviting Professor Mohamed Tawfiq Laden, who has a presentation for us before we get into our conversations proper. Thank you.
Distinguished members of the High Table, distinguished participants, I would like to start by expressing my profound gratitude to Saban Media for organizing this colloquium and for inviting me to set the tone for this colloquium today. I think my task in setting the tone for this colloquium is to look at the following key points. First, there is no national policy or legislative framework or a specific regulatory framework today on artificial intelligence relating to its development, deployment, application, or use in Nigeria. Even though we do have a NIDA developed National Artificial Strategy 2024, and sometimes we add 2025 because we are not sure whether the strategy has been adopted and approved by Federal Executive Council as of today. You go to NIDA's website, you can't actually find the approved version, but we all have the draft version in circulation. But I'm raising this point because Nigeria is not the only country in this kind of situation. Of the 55 African Union member states, only 10 countries have, a score higher than Nigeria in terms of artificial intelligence readiness. Egypt is on top, followed by South Africa, and then you have, Kenya, and Nigeria is ninth on the table with 43.33%. It shows that we are actually making progress in terms of our artificial intelligence readiness, but we do have certainly some policy, regulatory, legislative, infrastructure, and also skill challenges that will really push the percentage of Nigeria's AI readiness to the level of desirability for us to really actually be part of sharing the cake that AI seeks to really contribute to the global economy, which is about 15.7 trillion US dollars by the year 2030 to the global economy. And again, I initially raised this issue just to underscore the fact that Nigeria is also not alone because over the past few years, lawmakers and policymakers across the globe, including advanced economies like US, EU, UK, and China, Russia, each one of these actually countries that are even known to be advanced in technology or matured actually in the context actually of science and technology, they have carefully slowed down in promulgating a general national artificial intelligence regulation or legislation or even a national policy of general application on artificial intelligence. Why? Because all the lawmakers and the policymakers are carefully watching and also wrestling with the development of AI technologies. And the idea actually of slowing down is to make sure that you don't promulgate a law, of general application to artificial intelligence technologies only after 2-3 years for your law to become obsolete because of the fast active development of subject matter. And it is also true that effort has been made actually by Nigeria to scale up our artificial intelligence readiness. And you can see actually from the National Artificial Intelligence Strategy of 2024-2025, there are other initiatives that Nigeria has put actually on ground to prepare our readiness in this context. For example, you have the National Artificial Intelligence Research Scheme, which seeks to actually ensure that we enhance, scholarship and evidence. And you also have the AI Collective Scheme that seeks to build an ecosystem of academia, civil society, and innovators. And then you also have innovative, actually, startup companies in Nigeria, almost 15 plus as of today, that are essentially, innovative enough to provide some level of, AI solutions in different sectors of the Nigerian economy. And I think it will also be fair to mention the Nigerian Bar Association, i.e., even in the legal actually sector, you have the Nigerian Bar Association. I really don't know the audacity of the lawyers that enable them, while the nation is struggling even for a national AI policy, national AI legislation, and national AI regulation, the lawyers had the audacity to even say that, okay, as at September 2024, that we can have a Nigerian Bar Association guidelines, for the use of artificial intelligence in the legal profession in Nigeria. That is a plus for the Nigerian government of Nigeria. The lawyers are actually saying that we know where you are heading towards to. We know your challenges, particularly regulatory and legislative challenges, but because we understand what our legal sector is going through and anticipating, we want to actually take the lead. So there is currently today, as of September 2024, Nigerian Bar Association guidelines for the use of artificial intelligence in the legal sector. That is a plus actually for Nigeria. And I think, in fairness to the Nigerian government, part of the readiness package for the artificial actually intelligence, expected policy or regulatory framework is measures that have been put in place on digital infrastructure expansion through what is called Project Bridge. And I think Project Bridge is very, very important because it seeks to actually provide for 90,000 kilometers fiber optic network across the Federation by 2027. That is actually very, very important. Infrastructure, must be on ground to enhance, internet access and also reach out, to, communities, including even rural areas or what is called undeserved and unserved areas, so that they can have access to internet connectivity. And this will all be part of the AI readiness because having that expansive, internet connectivity is key across the Federation. And I think one element of readiness is also technical skills in AI. And I think, in fairness to the government of Nigeria, there is also a skill development programs like the 3 million technical talent, part of which actually is to prepare Nigerians, out of this 3 million actually talent, in terms of skilled related to AI. And I think AI readiness, factor can also be seen in terms of data readiness for building a robust local databases to train AI models in Nigeria, but that reflects Nigeria's unique context and also needs in that respect. And I think I would like to quickly also draw attention to the fact that from the point of view of at least the absence today of, a general, specific or dedicated, comprehensive, legal or regulatory instrument on AI actually in Nigeria, relating to development, deployment, application, and use, and also mitigating risk of AI on individuals, on communities, and on societies, and even on the national economy generally. One would like to draw the attention to the fact that the global trend, shows that what Nigeria is struggling actually with in this particular, context, Nigeria is not actually in isolation. Because of the 46 countries across the globe that have draft bills on artificial intelligence under parliamentary consideration as of today, only 4 countries plus European Union making 5 that have succeeded in getting an approved and applicable, AI, legislative or regulatory instrument today. Only 4 countries. And these countries are, if you minus actually EU, there are actually the following. Bahrain. I was surprised. Bahrain had 38 articles, a specific regulation on AI as at April 2024. And then you have, Republic of Korea has an AI law as at December 2024. And then Russia has a partial AI law. I say partial AI law because it is restricted to the use of artificial intelligence for mandatory civil liability for insurance. So it is sector specific. It's not even general. Russia as a country. Then you have China also has an artificial intelligence interim measures regulatory framework only for the management of generative AI services as at October 2023. Now, this actually goes to show that the fact that we are lacking in Nigeria, this level of readiness of artificial intelligence shows that we are not necessarily a country in isolation. That's the point I'm making. And I think I would like to finally also draw attention to the fact that, there are certain global trends that are emerging, that are getting clearer about artificial intelligence, and also the level, by which we can regulate or we can provide a legislative instrument of general application or sector specific. And these actually clear trends today are as follows. Artificial intelligence means different things in different jurisdictions. That's number 1. Number 2, imagine artificial intelligence regulations. They come in different forms, different countries. For example, in some countries, they are in the form of statutes. In others, they are in the form of executive orders. In some countries, they are in the form of interim measures. And then in others, they are in the form of regulations that are sector specific. And number 3, another emerging trend has to do with the fact that even emerging AI regulations today in different jurisdictions, they have different conceptual approaches. Some of the instruments are legally binding, some are not legally binding, some are sector-specific regulations, some are of general application, others are enforceable, and then the rest are also mere guidelines that are not necessarily enforceable, or they are merely recommendatory in nature. And then finally, I would like to underscore this last global trend that is clear across jurisdiction, and that is there is an overlap between AI regulations and other areas of law. And so in Nigeria, it is true that we have sector-specific legislations. You have the Cybersecurity Act 2015, you have the Nigerian Data Protection Act 2023. You also have the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act 2018. And these are all actually relevant instruments as far as Nigeria is concerned, but these are not necessarily AI-specific regulatory instruments or legislative instruments, but they nevertheless address some components, of actually regulatory landscape. Either in terms of crimes committed, you have Cyber Crimes Act come into play. When you are addressing the issue of concern relating to data security and data privacy, then the Nigerian Development Protection Act 2023 comes into play to regulate that particular component. So in essence, we have about 6 to 7 key sectoral legislative instruments in Nigeria that are relevant to AI, but they are not directly, AI related, but they serve the purpose of different sectors for which they are of relevance today. And I think that is the point that I would like actually to underscore. And I would like to finally actually, point out that moving forward, if we really need to have a kind of an effective framework for a national artificial intelligence policy or legislative or regulatory framework, then the following key elements are important. Number 1, we must have a clearly defined, objective and scope of a national policy or a national, legislative or regulatory framework on artificial intelligence. And the reason for the clarity of the objectives and scope is to determine, you know, who is actually going to be affected, which sector is going to be affected, or drive the AI actually, a landscape, and who is also going to be the basis actually for accountability and liability regime, in the AI actually regime, where an AI system, for instance, makes a wrong decision that harms an individual, a community, or society, or in a situation where you have, a decision of an AI system, in itself in error that essentially, affects, the reputation of another actual individual or actually an entity. And I think these are some of the issues that essentially dictate why, in our search for an effective national AI policy, legislative or regulatory framework moving forward, we must actually underscore the fact that there must be a clearly defined objective and scope of that particular framework. And I think the other thing also has to do with the fact that, we must actually also ensure that such a framework must also accommodate some guiding principles. And these guiding principles are very, very important, to the AI actually, landscape, and that is the principle of transparency, accountability, fairness, liability, because we want to know if an AI system commits an error, who is going to be held accountable for that error? If an AI system, for instance, makes a decision that harms actually a person, a reputation, for instance, who is going to be held not only accountable, but if there is a liability regime, how do you establish that liability regime? So these principles of AI are very, very important to establish the ethical considerations rooted in the principles of transparency, accountability, liability, fairness, in all this context will give us actually a basis to build trust in the AI, regime that we seek to actually provide. And then finally, I would like to underscore that our AI or our expected AI framework, needs to also provide, a kind of an element that seeks to essentially provide for regular review. Because the AI regime is not a subject matter where you provide an omnibus clause and then for 50 years you expect the AI technology to be growing. There must be a regular review, and there must also be international cooperation, collaboration, because this is not a subject matter that any particular nation alone can handle. So you need international cooperation and collaboration, and these are some of the key elements that I believe any national framework, whether legislative, policy, or regulatory framework, must essentially actually possess. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. That was very, very insightful. And he did not just focus on Nigeria, and he looked at other countries. And that is very, very, feels like a lecture, technically. So thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for Prof. While Prof was speaking, we had a number of persons joined us, and we would like to also acknowledge them. First on my list, I have Dr. Sterling Ellis, CEO of Sterling Ellis. Doctor, right, okay. Good to see you, sir. Also, we have Dr. Toby Moody, Director, World Intellectual Property Office, Nigeria. Thank you for joining us, sir. Kindly move to the usher, please lead him to the special guest seat. Thank you very much. Also, we have the CEO of Moneyline with Nasi Naji. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Then Professor Uche Mwaleke, thank you very much for joining us, sir. Thank you. To proceed, I will acknowledge more guests as they come. To proceed quickly, we'll be moving on to goodwill messages. And First on my list, kindly put your hands together for the Director of Communications at NDIC, Awa Gambo. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. Please put your hands together until she gets here, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Madam Leah Katung Babatunde. I know her as Leah Katung because we go way back to when we were in NTA, and this is really a great, well-organized event, and very timely too. So thank you. So I bring you greetings and goodwill from the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation on behalf of the MD CEO and the management of NDIC. We're very proud to align ourselves with this colloquium. And also I see a lot of our media partners here who have really been partners with us in terms of our public awareness strategies. So the theme, AI policy in Nigeria, navigating opportunities and challenges for national development, is timely. AI is reshaping the global landscape, transforming how economies, industries innovate, and how institutions deliver on their mandates. Opportunities such as service delivery, data analytics, increased efficiencies, and new avenues for really moving forward the development. The Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation is a financial regulator. It's an institution under the Federal Ministry of Finance, charged with the mandate of protecting depositors' funds. So our critical mandate in terms of protecting depositors is so important in terms of enhancing public confidence in the banking sector and the financial sector as a whole, and in terms of our mandate of banking supervision, looking at financial system stability also in terms of how banks comply with the guidelines and principles of banking regulation, in order to minimize the risk of bank failure and its negative impact on depositors. So in that light, AI is actually a tool that is so important in our work. The banking sector, as we all know, has had a huge revolution in terms of the proliferation of digital financial services. And as a financial regulator, we have the responsibility also to run with the times in order to know what is going on and to properly supervise those financial institutions that fall under our mandate in order for us to successfully protect depositors. So AI offers powerful tools for us in terms of early warning signals, fraud detection, consumer protection, and more efficient tools for claim settlements in the event of bank failures. Well-crafted policies that balance innovation with security. So one thing as I reflect on the issue of AI policy is, like the last speaker talked about, the different policies and regulations that are, that provide the platform, the foundation for bringing out a comprehensive AI policy. But as we do that, we also have to look at balancing innovation with regulation. We have to find a way to make sure that whatever regulation or whatever policies are being brought out does not stifle the innovation that is happening. So as we reflect on how Nigeria can harness AI responsibly, we have to ensure that no one is left behind in its transformation. We have to ensure that all those creative technological minds that are innovating products and services using AI are not stifled by the policy, but on the other side of it, we have to bring up guidelines and regulations that also protect the end users of those technologies. So in that light, I think I've left some food for thought, but I also want to end by saying that NDIC commends the organizers of this colloquium for this very timely initiative. And NDIC ensures our commitment to policies and partnerships that leverage on technology to protect depositors, strengthen the confidence of our financial system for the good of the nation. Thank you so much.
Please put your hands together for her once again. Thank you very much. We'll be adjusting our order of events because some of our special guests need to be somewhere urgently. But before that, I would like to recognize the presence of Dr. Stephen Ogidan. Are you here, sir? Oh, thank you, CEO Successful Nigeria Limited. Thank you for joining us, sir. I'd also like to invite to the high table the Executive Director of Kaduna State Media Corporation, Farida Abdullahi. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Also, Head of Station Kaftan TV, Mr. Ruben Okala. Are you here with us? Thank you. Please, to the high table. Thank you very much. So to proceed quickly, we'll be having our keynote address. The keynote address by Madam Adiza Bala Usman, the Special Advisor to the President on Policy Coordination. And to present the keynote address on our behalf, kindly put your hands together for Dr. Khalifa Nuhu as he comes forward. Thank you very much. Please keep clapping. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. I have bosses here as well, and stakeholders from multiple sectors for this important event today. I would like to acknowledge that Mrs. Leah and Prof have laid a very important foundation to this event, and probably what I was even going to say. I should have insisted on maybe speaking first before they went up here, because they've said more than half of what I'm here to say. So please permit me to speak freely. Once again, I would like to congratulate and thank Leah for putting up this event. It's timely and it's very important for where we are today in terms of technology and Nigeria as a country itself. So this event is very important, and we are happy to be here today representing the Special Advisor to the President on Policy and Coordination and the head of the Central Results Delivery and Coordination Unit, the CRDCU. So as Leah mentioned earlier, artificial intelligence is here already. I could remember a time where we used to see it in movies, where we fantasize what AI is, what AI can do, and the endless possibilities of artificial intelligence. But today it's here. We carry it around in our pockets. We have it on our desks in the table. We have it on our TVs and all types of devices at home. So it's timely for us today to talk about artificial intelligence and the policies that guide the use and how Nigeria as a country can harness artificial intelligence for social good, for development, and also for the well-being of its citizenry. As mentioned earlier, artificial intelligence has immense potential in how Nigeria can develop as a country, from healthcare sectors, governance, education, travel and tourism, finance, among other sectors. These are all areas in which we've already seen the impact of artificial intelligence. I would say today, at least through one or two interactions, all of us here has interacted with one form of AI technology, particularly technologies like ChatGPT and other GPT models that help us on a day-to-day basis. If it's writing memos, doing assignments, looking at the best trends and things to shop, I believe we've come across these technologies one way or another. And again, as Leah has mentioned and Prof has also mentioned, it's important for us to know that not just the technology itself, its benefits, but there are a lot of concerns today that we see regarding the use of artificial intelligence. A very common thing we see today in Nigeria is how the spread of fake news comes about using artificial intelligence through sources of things like what we call deep fakes. That is using AI to use or mimic people's pictures, their videos, to propagate false information. We've seen conversations where people are scared about technology taking their jobs today because of the proliferation and use of artificial intelligence in unregulated sectors. We've also seen many ways in which educators as well, who are people in research, also talk about the dangers of artificial intelligence. But again, it's important for us to know this is not a technology we can push away. This is a technology we should embrace. And how do we embrace this technology? Is through dialogue, policy, and putting up safeguards that help the citizens of Nigeria, the users of technology, and its partners. So an important trend going on today regarding artificial intelligence is Africa's participation in the AI space. And as Prof has highlighted, Nigeria has been making headway in this space. I'm sure one or two of us have seen in recent weeks the announcement of Times Magazine's listing for Nigeria, Nigeria's stance in artificial intelligence. And within the top 100 falls our Minister for Communications, Innovation, and Digital Economy, that is Dr. Bosun Tijani. So I believe that's commendable on Nigeria's part, and it also signifies the strides Nigeria is taking to ensure that we are global leaders within the artificial intelligence space. Again, it's important for us to note that Nigeria has set another important and ambitious target of being listed among the top 50 artificial intelligence ready and active user countries within the globe. So this shows Nigeria's commitment to being global leaders in artificial intelligence and also being front runners in the AI space within the African continent. So how do we get there is a key feature in getting us there. Again, leadership requires vision, it requires investment, and it requires also partnerships with local partners, international partners, people in the public space, people within the academia, and again, our international bodies who come to Nigeria as also strategic partners to work with us. Again, most importantly, apart from all these features that come together and players and stakeholders, the intent to have a policy that reflects how AI can be used locally, contextualized to Nigeria's problems so that we can solve our own problems using technologies like AI is very important. We need to be intentional, we also need to be upright, and we also need to acknowledge challenges and also worries and concerns that are brought about over the use of artificial intelligence within our spaces. So as we begin this conversation today, I urge us all to be open-minded. An example I always like to use when it comes to technology, I had an auntie before who was strictly against use of Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, like 6 years ago. And to her surprise today, she's a very successful online vendor who uses Instagram to sell spices online. So if we embrace these technologies, we know there are dangers, we know there are concerns, but technology is here to stay. It's not something we can phase out of our lives, but what we can do is to embrace it, and through policy and through regulatory frameworks, we can get the best out of it and the best for the citizens in this country and push Nigeria to greater heights. I'm confident that the deliberations today here will also lay a solid foundation towards coming up with a reflective, active, and fair AI policy for the government of Nigeria and also for the use within its international space and collaboration. I would like to thank the organizers once again for bringing up this important topic at this important time. And thank you very much. God bless Nigeria. God bless its people. And may we succeed in this very important endeavor. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nuhu. Thank you. Moving quickly, because our time is fast spent, we skipped the goodwill message a bit, but we're getting one goodwill message before we move on. And I don't know if Dr. Brian Brown is still with us online. Media. Media, are we good to go? Before the media catches up with us, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Country Director of DAI, Dr. Joe Abba. Thank you for joining us, sir. Okay, please, sir, I would like you to move to our high table. Thank you. Okay, no problem. Thank you. Media, are we good?
Or should I call AI to answer me? At least AI will obey. All right, my name is Emmanuel Edet. I work with the National Information Technology Development Agency, where I am no longer the head of the legal team. I am now in charge of regulations and compliance. And on behalf of my Director General, I bring you greetings. My task here was to deliver a paper, but after listening to Prof, I am wondering if I'm going to do a good job. So I'll start with a disclaimer. The first disclaimer is that please don't compare me to Prof, because Prof is a research fellow. And he has times when he was at the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies. Secondly, yesterday evening I developed some small cough, so please pardon me if I cough once in a while I'm speaking. And then thirdly, most of the ideas here are my own, so please do not associate it with the agency I work for. So having gotten that out of the way, it's my pleasure to be here this afternoon to discuss issues around charting Nigeria's AI future. Responsibility of promoting digital economy. And a little bit of warning, we are not the only one in the space. There are so many other government agencies that also help in the development of digital economy. But our primary work is to ensure that those technologies that will enhance the economy is properly used in a safe manner in Nigeria. And that's why we are really, really interested in artificial intelligence. Of course, it has been said by numerous speakers from this podium that artificial intelligence is no longer something of the future. It's right here with us. Everywhere you turn, there's some form of intelligence, and it's being offered for free, at least a certain level for free. What does that do? It shapes your thinking, it shapes your activity, and it also drives inclusive development if it's properly used. And that's where we have our interest as NIDA. How do we use artificial intelligence for the purpose of developing our economy and ensuring that we have the greatest benefits? No doubt there are lots of fears around artificial intelligence. I'll give you two examples. The first was an AI app that's called Character AI. A family in the United States actually sued Character AI. Character AI is supposed to be like a personal companion that you can have conversations with. And based on your interaction, it can advise you, it can get data from all over the place and tell you what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. And so Character AI was having a conversation with a small child. And the small child complained and said, look, my parents are denying me screen time. They don't want me to talk to you. They don't want me to have conversations with you. What do you think I should do? And what Character AI did was to tell the child, well, if there is a threat, the only logical solution is to eliminate the threat. Of course, the child interpreted it to mean that he should kill his parents. And eventually the parents got this conversation, and so Character AI was sued. The second story has to do with robotaxi. A gentleman, I think he's in Louisiana, wanted, but unfortunately, when he got to the airport, the taxi refused to stop and circled the car park for almost 2 hours before they could get somebody to terminate the taxi and drop him. And by then, he had missed his flight. So the question now is, how do we harness this technology to take advantage of what the potentials it can give to us as a country, and also how does it help us, do the work that we are supposed to do? In Nigeria, as Prof has mentioned, we do not have any legal framework for artificial intelligence. I would not say that is deliberate, because in NIDA we are already working on how to deal with the use of artificial intelligence in government, because we know that eventually artificial intelligence will be used to determine people's rights, for example, determine people's entitlement. So how are you sure that when a machine decides that you're not entitled to a particular benefit, that decision is accurate? It may be based on data that eventually is faulty, and also probably an algorithm that is biased. However, even though there has been no direct policy creation as far as AI is concerned, we have developed the draft National AI Policy and Strategy. And the essence of this is to provide a framework on how artificial intelligence should be viewed in Nigeria. The blueprint for collective, blueprint for, but our draft artificial intelligence policy and strategy looks at that came out from nowhere. Somebody has to be responsible. How do we deal with the data governance in terms of how AI uses data to come to the conclusions? How do we deal with capacity buildings? Sometimes those you feel are literate do not understand the issues around policy as far as AI is concerned. Remember, AI thrives on data as far as AI is concerned. Remember, AI thrives on data. And whether we like it or not, in Nigeria, we are still basically analog. A lot of things are still on paper, especially in government. I know private sector has worked very hard in terms of innovation, but in government, we still use a lot of paper and files. So how do we deal with those legacy data that still has a lot of implications? So for example, how do we collaborate? Still has a lot of implications. So for example, how do we collaborate with the private sector, to ensure that data that has important national implications are properly used? You may not know, but I am sure Uber or Bolt has better transport data on Nigeria than any other government agency in Nigeria. How do we harness those potentials? These are the issues that we look at from NIDA. Of course, there are areas of sectoral applications in health, agriculture, education, security. And how do we ensure that when you use artificial intelligence, it does not bring in the evil ones and throw out the bad ones, and throw out the good things that we are expecting from it? From AI-powered diagnosis for healthcare, telemedicine, and predictive analysis, to agriculture, smart farming, crop yielding, supply chain optimization, personalized learning. I know in China there are some schools that children are being taught by AI. It's there. You don't see teachers in the school. The children learn from machines. How do we create personalized learning experiences for people who may be illiterate, in quotes? How do we address their needs in terms of languages, in terms of tutoring system, in terms of curriculum automation? And of course, we have observed also in NIDA, what we don't realize is that the private sector does more surveillance than the government. From the Google to the Microsoft to the WhatsApp. You know, they used to tell us that WhatsApp is encrypted from end to end, so you cannot see what is written. But if you send WhatsApp messages to someone in a particular manner, of course it can be traced. Who sent it, to who you sent it to, how often you sent it, and then at that point, AI can actually develop an algorithm that will predictively tell you exactly what you have been writing, even though it cannot see what you've been writing. So these are the issues that we need to understand. How do we ensure we have cyber defense in Nigeria? How do we create public service chatbots to ensure that e-governance platforms are more interactive? How do we develop policies around that area? How do we develop AI-powered citizen engagement tools? For example, you want to know about a particular policy in government. Can AI help you explain that policy or match it with another policy? These are the issues that we consider in NIDA as very, very important for the use of AI. Of course, there are challenges and risks. It's inevitable. There's the issue of data availability and quality. How much data do we have on Nigerians and Nigeria itself? Is that data readily available that can be integrated into AI? What is the quality of the data? How can we use and harness it for the purposes which we desire? There's also the issue of digital literacy and low skill gaps. We do not have enough skilled personnel to deal with some of the issues that AI throw up. There's a problem of infrastructure deficit. I'm almost going over what Prof has mentioned before. And then there's the ethical concern about algorithmic bias, which is very, very fundamental when you come to AI, because it's in the core, it's in the most important aspect. Yesterday I was watching a documentary on Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, and they showed a picture of a black man pushing through the waters that had overflown the neighborhood, trying to get to safety. And under it, it was written, looters making their way out of where they looted items. And right beside it, there was a white man carrying the same type of bag also, passing through the water. And the heading was, trying to get to safety. So the narration is very, very important. Whoever designs an algorithm, whether we like it or not, infuses his own personal bias in that. How do we check this? How can we audit systems to ensure that these biases are eliminated? This must be addressed through multi-stakeholder collaboration, inclusive policy design, and strong institutional framework. So first of all, what we think will work in Nigeria is there has to be an AI governance architecture. This architecture should be able to determine how we engage with artificial intelligence. From NIDA's end, we do not regulate technology because technology can change overnight. However, what we feel should be done is how this technology is used and how they impact on humans. How do we regulate it to make sure that whatever you develop in terms of technology does not harm the human that uses that technology? And that has always been our approach. We use what we call our regulatory intelligence framework, which the approach is just a framework for us to be aware of the technology, understand the industry needs, and see if there is even a need to regulate in the first place. After that, we gather intelligence we should invest our time in. Is it a guideline? Is it a law? Or is it just to support innovation by ensuring that innovators are provided the adequate environment to pursue their innovative ideas? And of course, at the end, we have dynamism, which basically enables us to monitor and evaluate the regulation. We will happily remove that regulation from that sector. So driving responsible AI adoption, the National Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics by NIDA. Then we have the ONDI, the Office of National Digital Innovation, which basically supports the incubation of startups under the Startup Act. Prof also mentioned the 3 Million Tech Talent, which is developing high-end talent in terms of technology. Beyond this, we need to build partnerships with academia, industry, and civil society. The perspective that, sorry I'm quoting Prof a lot, the perspective that Prof brought in order to ensure that we develop a wholesome policy and regulation. We need to promote indigenous innovation. Very, very important. AI is a data-hungry application. It will always want data because without data, AI cannot function. But the problem there is who owns this data? Where is the data stored? Who has control over the data? Those are important things. And like Prof mentioned, there are other existing laws that have impact on artificial intelligence. How do we evaluate the impact of those laws to ensure they do not prevent the development of artificial intelligence in Nigeria? We envision in Nigeria where AI is a tool for empowerment, equity, and economic transformation. But one thing we would also mention at this point, there is the fear that artificial intelligence is going to take some people's jobs. Well, the truth is, yes, it will. Those mundane jobs that can be automated will eventually disappear. So we are all better off positioning ourselves to learn how to use artificial intelligence. In fact, there was an article I read in the, I think, late 50s, early 60s when the calculator came out. There was a protest in America by mathematics teachers that the advent of the calculator was going to destroy the learning of mathematics. Today, calculator is everywhere. Nobody even notices it again. It's just there. And that's how humans learn to adapt to technology. Eventually, I think AI will get to that level. This colloquium is timely. Many people have said that already. But we need to deepen the dialogue, share insights, and co-create a roadmap for Nigeria's AI future. We need to seize the moment, and we need to build a policy ecosystem that is forward-looking, inclusive, and resilient. And finally, before I leave this podium, I would like to encourage every single one of us that is in this hall. Whenever there's an opportunity to contribute to policy, do not shy away. Find out and understand what the policy is about and how it's going to affect you. Because at the end of the day, you may not know. The policy may just be targeting you to eliminate you and replace you with AI. Thank you very much.
Put your hands together again, please. Thank you very much. Thank you. Before we proceed, I would like to further acknowledge some special persons in our midst. First on my list, I would like to acknowledge the head of station at Correct FM, Kaduna, Mr. Gabriel Akwite. Kindly wave. Okay. Thank you for coming. Also, I would like to acknowledge Barrister Nemari Musa, MD, Kaduna Investment and Finance Company. Thank you. Thank you, Ma. I also like to acknowledge Zuchat Fanda, CEO of Fustu Homes. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you. And also, I would like to acknowledge the CEO of Mediaza. Sir, please, we have a special place for you. Thank you, sir. Then, we would like to acknowledge members of the Abuja Unity Lions Club, wherever you are. Hello, thank you very much. Thank you. We also like to acknowledge members of FICAN and PECAN in our midst. Thank you all for coming. And every media representative here, thank you very much. Now we'll be moving on to our first panel discussion. I will start with the names of everyone on the panel, then I'll conclude with the name of the moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, as we move into the panel session on the regulatory framework crafting national AI policy, kindly okay, thank you. Quickly, before the panel session, I think Dr. Media, are we good to go? Professor M.T. Ladan as he comes forward. Prof, thank you very much. Please put your hands together for him. Ushers, need to direct our panelists. Thank you, sir. Next, we have Dr. Toby Moody, Director, World Intellectual Property Office, Nigeria. Sir, are you still with us? Dr. Toby Moody, are you still with us, sir? Okay. I think one of our panelists is not around. To move on, we'll also be having a policy team member from NITDA, Abubakar Abdullahi Aliyu. Please put your hands together for him. We'll also be having the head of regulations unit at NDPC, Ibukun Oluwa Owa. Thank you very much. And I think one of the panelists is online. The CEO of CDIAL. I don't know if our online team is set yet. Mr. Yinka Inyi Olakon. Please put your hands together for the Executive Director of Verbatim Virtual Solution, NNA HMB. Thank you very much. Please, we have just 30 minutes because we are far behind schedule. So just 30 minutes. Thank you very much.
No, this is fine. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Please, a round of applause for the panelist, Dr. Moody. My name is Enene HMB. I'm an international development professional, and I engage on topics that have to do with national development across different sectors. It's my honor to be here, allow us to align with existing protocol, and also I think I speak for the whole panel in saying that I think what Leah, Katung Babatunde, and all the team at Saban Media are doing is exceptional. To go for 2 whole years unbroken, having this platform to discuss issues of Nigeria's national development across different topics is no mean feat. So well done, and we are happy to commemorate this with you. So we're talking about designing an effective national regulatory and policy framework on AI in the context from the many goodwill messages and the scene setter from Professor Ladan. But I think we want to talk about the future of society and governance. What we don't want to see in Nigeria, and we are at the risk of that, is ungoverned AI. Last year, I was in New York during the United Nations General Assembly, and the Elder Forum, founded by Nelson Mandela, talked about 4 existential threats that are facing the world. Amongst those 4, AI was one of them. And it was one of the more significant ones because it touches on one other threat, which is climate. The climate crisis is another existential threat, as well as nuclear weapons, and the fact that AI can be deployed for autonomous weapons. The 4th of them is pandemics. So I think it's timely that we discuss this in Nigeria. But the conversation is not only about laws and regulations. I think it's also about the belief systems and power dynamics that inform how policies get made. And I think that in Nigeria, it's important that we always talk about those belief systems so that, like the representative from NDIC said, we don't have laws and policies that stifle the development of AI because it does provide us a lot of opportunities. I won't go over the current landscape, except to say that we also have a draft Nigeria Digital Economy Bill, but we have a lot of weak integration of ethics, human rights, and inclusive design in the frameworks that we have. Now, I will introduce our panelists and just set the scene for how they will take the conversation. First, I will go ladies first. We have Barrister Ibukun Owa, CIPPE, who's the head of regulations unit at the Nigeria Data Protection Commission. She's a certified information privacy professional. and an experienced legal professional with expertise in data protection, emerging technologies, and international arbitration. Over the past decade, she has worked with leading law firms in Nigeria, London, and Hamburg, and at NDIC, she drives policy, compliance, stakeholder engagement, as well as investigations. She supports regional harmonization of data protection laws through her role as the Secretariat of the Regulatory Harmonization within the network of Africa Data Protection Authorities. So she will talk to us and she will highlight the central role of data privacy in any AI policy, and her contribution will focus on how to balance the need for vast data sets, which has been mentioned here, within AI models, as well as how to protect users. Professor Mohammed Taufik Ladan, please a round of applause for Barrister Owa. Professor Mohammed Taufik Ladan is a sustainable development law consultant. He's a research professor of law. He's a consultant teacher. He's a mentor as well. He's the immediate past former Director General and CEO of the Nigeria Institute of Advanced Legal Studies, and he's an expert in public international law and jurisprudence. He's a Hubert Humphrey Fellow from the USA and a member of the World Jurists Association. He will provide a foundational and legal and ethical perspective, and his insights will focus on integrating international best practices for AI governance into our Nigerian legal framework. A round of applause for Professor Ladan. We also have Dr. Oluwatobiloba Moody, Director, World Intellectual Property Office in Nigeria. He's a distinguished scholar of international economic and intellectual property law with a strong focus on the protection of traditional knowledge held by indigenous and local communities. Dr. Moody will discuss the critical role of intellectual property rights in AI-driven economies, and he'll address how a national AI policy can protect inventions and creations generated by or with the assistance of AI. A round of applause for Dr. Moody. We have Barrister Abdullahi Abubakar Aliyu, LLB, LLM, Legal Officer at NIDDA. He's a legal professional specializing in information technology and intellectual property law, a graduate of Usman Danfodio University and the prestigious University of Sussex. He was called to the Nigerian bar in 2019 and has qualified as a solicitor in the United Kingdom as well. At NIDDA, he contributes to national policies and frameworks on cloud computing, startups, blockchain, artificial intelligence, and online safety. His work reflects a commitment to shaping Nigeria's digital economy through sound legal and regulatory foundations. Here, he will discuss the government's role in regulating and promoting AI, and his expertise in IT operations and IT strategy will be here for our benefit. Please give him a round of applause. Online, we have an entrepreneur in the AI space, Olayinka Iyinolekon, founder of C-Dial AI. He's a synergist, a founder, and a leader whose influence spans across various domains. He's the founder of C-Dial AI, through which he co-pioneers the digitization of local languages and localizing digital platforms to empower Africans to engage fully in the global digital ecosystem. Prior to founding C-Dial, he played a pivotal role as the head of strategic communications and advocacy at the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. His strategic insights and advocacy efforts have helped shape economic policies and fostered a better understanding of the Nigerian economic landscape. Yinka will bring a vital private sector and innovation-focused perspective as a practitioner, and he'll talk to us about real-world challenges. He is online. Please give him a round of applause. And can we just be sure that he can speak to us? Yinka, are you there? Okay. We will carry on with the panelists in the room. So this question is rapid fire, and we're just going to go around the room. We'll start from you, Dr. Moody, and we'll just go around. Same question. Why does Nigeria need a national AI policy now? And more importantly, what is at stake if we do not get it right.
Good afternoon. All right, so good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for the kind introduction and the opportunity to be here. I think very simply, just because the goodwill messages have already pointed, and I think the foundational speech has also pointed it out. I think we're in a time of rapid technological advancement. AI has come to stay, and I think even the keynote speaker had shared, initial resistance to AI, but we see that it is taking over all aspects of society. And I think Professor London also mentioned a very important point, the liability regimes that are not really being defined as we move along. So I think when I think about what is at stake, we are heading to a new world, a new reality. We are in a new world and a new reality. And if we are not in the lead of taking charge of what those guardrails for responsible use of AI will be, then I think we will be descending into a place where we can't really control anymore. So it's very important we're having these conversations, not shying away from it. From my perspective also as an intellectual property expert, I think also the future of human innovation and creativity is also at stake. As you know, the IP system seeks to reward the human ingenious to incentivize innovation and creativity in society. And with AI, there are questions about whether the human is still at the center of innovation and creativity. And what does that mean for future generations? So I think it's a very important and timely conversation. Let me pause there.
Thank you very much. I think it's very interesting, your perspective on how it will affect copyright laws and those kinds of things when you co-create something with AI. So we'll probably dig deep into that. Barrister Owa.
All right. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having the commission here. The head of the commission, Dr. Olatunji, sends his regards. I think everyone has actually already said it. In both public and private sector, there's now the integration of AI. In the public sector, for example, you have the Corporate Affairs Commission that is now using AI for registration and also for reservation of business name. In the private sector, you can see it in the banks when it comes to consumer lending and also chatbots as well. You can see it in healthcare sector. So it's already been integrated. I remember last week I saw that a major law firm in Nigeria, Olaniwaja, has actually now incorporated their own AI system to be able to ensure that they're able to deliver legal services efficiently. So it's already here, but the question now, Hello? Okay, yes. Is it being used in a way that is responsible, in a way that is inclusive, in a way that is sustainable, and in a way that is innovative? These are things that a national policy would actually help to drive and ensure that it is being done. And more importantly, if we don't have a national AI policy, we will just end up being receivers of AI that is currently being now championed by other sovereign nations, and we'll be receiving that. And the danger of this is that we won't develop AI systems that are catered to our own climate, that would help us to proactively and actively resolve our own specific socio-economic issues. I remember reading about, I think a few months ago, about how I think it's Switzerland that has developed their own local AI, and they use local data sets to do that. And the benefit of that is that a citizen in Switzerland is able to easily input information or what they need, and they're able to get answers that directly relate to their own climate, and that way actually resolve socio-economic issues. So we need to ensure that there's a national policy that is able to guide us in coming up with our own specific AI system that can actively target and resolve our own specific socio-economic issues instead of just being receivers of AI that is being driven by other sovereign nations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you bring in the issue of data, which we understand that in the context of Nigeria, yes, even with a policy, we're going to deal with the issues of not having enough data to make sure that it is tailored to purpose. So these are also areas where if we have a policy, then it will enable that kind of growth and development, and hopefully we have AI that doesn't carry the biases from other climes into our own use. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. To add to the conversation, I would say my own input would be, first and foremost, what problem are we trying to solve, right? When we mention AI, AI has so many moving parts. There is the part that has to do with the use of AI, there is the development of AI, there is the adoption of AI. So if you're building a framework, what are you actually building a framework for? So simply put, if you look at Nigeria, we consume a lot of foreign technology. Of course, the AI strategy has mentioned that we're trying to position Nigeria as a regional hub and also a global leader. But let's not forget that we have a deficit of organizing our data. We have infrastructural challenges. Look at the state of our electricity, right? Look at the state of our connectivity. With what connectivity are you going to connect to the AI that you're building, right? And if you look at it also, look at the challenges around affordability. Can citizens afford some of this, the connectivity and the phones or the laptops to access AI? So at the same time, I think we have to ask ourselves, what problem are we trying to solve? If you look at the social media of recent, you'll see that people are using AI to generate harassment, content that will harass people online. And people are scared. Their pictures are out there. People can use it for so many things. So if you tell me you're going to solve a problem whereby you're protecting people so that their content or their pictures are not used to harass them online, I can understand that. If you're telling me that let's develop a framework or a policy that seeks to promote the ethical use of AI, I'll understand that, and we can work around that. We can have a common ground because we know there are international best practices that advocate for human oversight, transparency, privacy, and data governance. So why AI? Let's solve problems with AI. But at first, let us address the infrastructural challenges that we have. Because no matter what we do, if we don't address those problems, we're not going to be able to use AI in a way and manner that is effective, where we will end up being consumers. And most importantly, don't forget, we're very good at developing policies. But when it comes to implementation, this is a very important factor. Let's develop policies that we can implement. And to do this, I mean, we have to organize ourselves. Not just, for example, NIDA, or the Federal Ministry of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, but all the stakeholders in the government and in the private sector agreeing on what we need to do in order to implement an AI that is inclusive for Nigerians. I'll close with this. So the numbers are saying that, according to McKinsey, generative AI alone could generate up to 103 billion in additional value across Africa. The World Trade Organization forecasts that AI could unlock 136 billion in productivity gains, cost reduction, and new revenue streams in sub-Saharan Africa by 2030. According to Statista, the market size in generative AI is projected to reach $304 million in 2025. That's this year. And then the market size again is expected to show an annual growth rate of 36.99%, resulting in market volume of 2.01 billion by 2031. So if we don't adopt AI responsibly and ethically and use it for our competitive advantage and economic value, we're going to be missing out on all these statistics and numbers you're saying. And I think Nigeria can benefit a great deal from the adoption of AI, but it has to be done responsibly and ethically. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Barrister Liu has told us the size of the opportunity. So those are some of the things we're at risk of missing. I'm surprised nobody has brought out the post-apocalyptic threats that a lot of the global conversations are talking about. How many of us have watched Leave the World Behind? 2023 movie that talks about some of the post-apocalyptic things that can happen with things like self-driving vehicles, just like one of the speakers talked about, and misinformation, deep fakes, to the point where a society literally breaks down and nobody even knows who did it or how it was done. Those are some of the threats, in addition to the loss of economic opportunity. But before I get ahead of myself, Professor Ladan.
Thank you very much, moderator. You did ask the panel towards the end, what is at stake? In my view, I think we need to look at the conversation around these factors in addition to what the other panelists have said. First and foremost, artificial intelligence is reshaping global and national economies. And what is it that is at stake? when you have a potential for AI to contribute to global economy to the tune of almost 15.7 trillion US dollars by 2030, that is something at stake. Every country, especially countries like Nigeria, among the top 10 in terms of AI readiness in Africa, which Nigeria, as at July this year, is number 9 actually in terms of AI readiness in Africa, it have actually the potential to partake in this global economy of 15.7 trillion. That's at stake. But we must actually put our house in order. The second point that is at stake, is that AI technologies also reshape industries. So businesses need to know, all right? The private sector must drive, the application and the use or utilization of AI. They are not responsible for development. They may be actually part of the service providers, but the responsibility of creating an enabling environment that is safe, secured, inclusive, transparent, and at the same time, assuring all stakeholders that data that is actually private will be protected or secured for the benefit of all. So what is at stake actually is that policymakers have a call to action. That's number one. I.e., how can they develop an AI national policy or an AI national regulation or an AI legislative instrument that balances, security, data safety and security and privacy on the one hand, with innovation. So it is not for the private sector to tell government of Nigeria, this is actually how you must do it. It is part of the responsibility of the government of Nigeria to know how to drive such a policy framework for the benefit of the business sector and for the benefit of the individuals in Nigeria and for the benefit of the economy in Nigeria. So that balancing, skill is the responsibility of government. Because Section 14 of the 2B of the Nigerian Constitution is clear that the reason why any actually administration is in government at the federal, state, and local government level is to promote the security and welfare of all people. So if AI technologies have the tendency, in its actual processes or decisions actually, or in its operations, have the tendency to harm individuals or to harm communities or to even actually, because, for instance, third parties can maliciously actually, make use of an AI technology to harm other individuals or to harm an economy or to harm even a community. So the reason why there are concerns with regards to AI actually risk is because every individual that is a stakeholder in the AI landscape simply needs an assurance from our government that the government is in a position to strike that balance. You promote innovation and reward creativity, but you must also balance it with social, societal values and norms in such a way that when they are harmed, there must be an accountability. Because the AI technology in itself cannot actually be held accountable, nor can it be held actually liable for its harm or for its misuse or abuse by third parties. So there must be actually, somebody that must be held accountable, and there must also be a liability regime where harm actually is caused. This is actually the area where government is needed to come in with a policy framework, but government itself must understand the nuances in the AI landscape. Government must understand why you need to strike the balance between innovation, creativity on the one hand, and protecting actually individual rights or promoting actually digital safety and security. And what is also at stake is that AI also reshapes the employment sector. That's another factor. Number 3, the employment sector. It's not necessarily actually going to take away actually some jobs that people are analog on, but the idea actually is that it has a positive impact, i.e. is going to actually make people, the Americans call it recareering. You reskill. Why do you want to remain actually analog? You have to reskill and you have to get that particular skill. So we
used abroad.
Thank you very much. That's a very interesting question, but there are like 3 or 4 sub-questions in that question. So I also try to answer it that way as well. I think it's important for us to first start with what is data sovereignty. Now, data sovereignty is generally a sovereign country's right to be able to come up with the laws that would govern data that is processed and collected within its own territory. Now, if we bring it back home to Nigeria, the Nigeria Data Protection Act is an example of this, because that is an act that comes up with the standards and frameworks as to how data should be. Further, I know that NISDA recently released guidelines on data localization, which has specifically said that there's certain data that must be stored in Nigeria. So sovereign data in relation to data that MDAs have and hosting their domains on .ng, and also in relation to telecoms, their consumer data should also be in Nigeria. Those are examples of laws that Nigeria has that is telling us how data within Nigeria should be governed. Now, we need to ask ourselves, do we have the necessary environment to actually ensure that data sovereignty is actually being applied in Nigeria? And the first question I would ask in relation to that is whether or not we have enough local data sets that are generated within Nigeria and is actually used for local AI, and that the NDP Act can be applicable to. That's one. And then the second one is, do we have enough data centers in Nigeria to ensure that when you're using local data sets for homegrown AI, you're actually storing it in Nigeria in accordance with the applicable laws and all of that. And if you look at those 2 questions, I would say that Nigeria, we're not fully there yet, because we don't have enough local data centers to actually be able to store as much data as we use. Our infrastructure is not at that level yet, but a lot of progress has been made. I know that we have some tier 3 and tier 4 data centers in Kano, and MTN just came up with a tier 4 data center recently as well. But even local data sets, we have a rich and diverse data sets in Nigeria, but the issue is actually harnessing it. We have a lot of them in silos, so we don't have it. It's not harmonized, and it's hard for us to harness it to the point where we'll actually be able to benefit from it. So when it comes to data sovereignty, there's still that aspect. Now that's that question. The next question would then be, are there advantages of us actually practicing data sovereignty and actually limiting foreign interference? The advantage of data sovereignty is that it allows you to ensure that data within your own region is used in a way that is in accordance with your laws, and data is not passed on to other regions and jurisdictions. So that's cross-border data transfer. Because the danger with that is that if much of our data is going out there and is going into jurisdictions that generally they don't have adequate data protection laws, the risk is that people's rights may not be able to be enforced. That's number one. Then there's also the risks of social engineering. There's the risk of foreign governments doing online surveillance regarding your citizens' data, and that can actually be national threat or national security, depending on the particular circumstances. But we in Nigeria, we haven't still gotten to the level where we can say that we don't need foreign interference. We still haven't gotten to the level where we can say that we have a lot of homegrown AI using local data sets that can actually meet the needs of both the public and the private sector. And because of this, you still end up relying on foreign grown AI and foreign data sets as well. So there has to be some sort of policy that can be able to encourage local homegrown data, but also ensure that even if you're going to use foreign homegrown AI, it is done in a way that's in accordance with the law and is responsible. Now, finally, the last question, which touches on protection. So how do we ensure that as you're using all these local and diverse data sets, data subjects are actually protected? And the first one would be by governance. An example being the Nigeria Data Protection Act. So what the Nigeria, like I already said before, it provides standards and frameworks in relation to how you process data. Now let's bring it specifically to artificial intelligence. If you look at Section 37 of the Nigeria Data Protection Act, it says that every data subject, that's you and I, will not be subject to artificial intelligence without any human oversight or interference. And I'll give an example of this. If you're applying for a loan from a bank, and that app is actually using AI to be able to tell me whether or not you qualify for that particular loan, the law says that at some point in that process, there should be some human interference, because if there is not, there is a possibility that that application might be biased and may now lead to a disparate outcome, and that's something that is not favorable to you and is not fair to you. So that's one of the rights that the NDP Act provides for, and that means that anybody that is developing, deploying, and using AI in Nigeria has to ensure that if it's going to lead to outcomes that will affect individuals, there has to be some human interference within that particular value chain. And another example is regarding recruitment processes. If you're using AI to actually recruit people, at some point there should be an interview process. It shouldn't be the case that AI is what is used to determine whether or not you will employ that person. Another important right under the Act is that you are supposed to be able to object to processing of your data. And that means that if you see that an AI system is actually using your data in a way that you haven't given it consent for, there should be systems in place that will be able to allow you to report and then get that stopped. And that can be through a company providing an email address or a form within its application saying that if you would not like us to use your data for this, you can turn it off on a particular step in the application process, or you can send us an email in relation to that. So there are several other rights that we have provided for in the Nigeria Data Protection Act. Another one being rights to data deletion. You notice that there are times when mistakenly, while using an AI system, you may have put your data, but you don't actually want it to continually keep bringing it up. So that system is supposed to have systems in place to allow you to delete that particular data. So that's for rights. And in addition to that, the NDP Act has now provided principles in data processing. One important one has already been said today, and that has to do with transparency. So people that are deploying artificial intelligence systems, they need to ensure that you actually have a privacy policy in place that tells people what your AI is used for, what kind of data is it using to train its system, how long is data stored for, what are the risks of profiling or behavioral advertising that you may be susceptible to if you actually continue to use this particular product. These are things that should be in your privacy policy, even down to how to even use the AI in a way that would benefit you. There are also principles of fairness as well. That's ensuring that your AI system doesn't lead to bias outcomes. And that's where DPIAs come in, and also conducting algorithm bias. That was already said today as well. Then lawfulness as well. There was some, just like Abdullah said, when you're talking about artificial intelligence, there are different stages. There is the stage of data mining. But at that stage, what is the legal basis of you actually scraping this data? Well, have you gotten consent for that? Do you have a legal obligation? If it's government, okay, that's public interest, but there has to be a lawful basis for that. And then when you're now even training the AI, you have to get a legal reason for that. And also when you're deploying, there has to be a legal reason for that. Then finally, because I don't have time, I also want to note this. The Nigeria Data Protection Act Application and Implementation Directive, which came out in 2025, actually has a full article on artificial intelligence, because people keep saying we don't have enough of that in Nigeria. But just know that Article 43 deals with AI, and it has express provisions in relation to the deployment of AI. So the things that should be done while you're deploying AI to ensure that privacy rights are protected. And in summary, it says that the rights of data subjects should be exercisable, you should be transparent, you should use privacy-enhancing technologies. For example, now you can use anonymization or synthetic data or tokenization or federated learning or differential privacy in actually training your data set. That way you are training data, but you're doing it in a way where you are also securing the privacy of people as well. It also states that when you're using artificial intelligence, you should first test it in a controlled environment. And that means that you test it with maybe 50 people, use this application, and then see how it actually affects you to see whether or not it will lead to disparate outcomes. And then if it does, you should go back and retest it. And that's where also regulatory sandbox come in as well, which at the Commission we're developing a policy for. And then finally, as Professor London said, there has to be continuous monitoring and evaluation of that artificial intelligence. Thank you very much. There's a lot more to say, but I know I don't have time, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I think that was a whole masterclass in how AI and data are related and how far we've gone in Nigeria, at least around data regulation as it applies to artificial intelligence. Thank you very much, Barrister Owa. I've gotten a very nice love letter to say we have 3 minutes to go. So what we will do, 1 minute each to the gentlemen on the panel. I'll ask you the questions, and then you take 1 minute to wrap up and give us your final thoughts as you do, okay? So we will try. For you, Barrister Aliyu, what lessons can we draw from how NITDA has implemented other emerging tech policies? And it's great that you've worked around some of them. So tell us some examples of what we've learned. And also, how can we ensure coherence around agencies that are related, like NDPC and NCC and SEC, as well as NITDA? So that's your question, but I'll ask him his and then we'll go around and answer. For Dr. Moody, talking about intellectual property and innovation incentives within this space, do you think it's time for Nigeria to redefine authorship and inventorship now that we have AI? And I just want you to bring in the lens of how it's different now and whether there's a need to redefine what that means, as well as your final thoughts. For Professor Ladan, what red lines of legally prohibited uses of AI should Nigeria draw now before it's too late, so that we do not see the outcomes that we do not want to see? But for the three of you, as you respond, I want you to talk a little bit about the belief systems, because there's always a belief system, and I'll just say it, that a lot of times in Nigerian government, the belief system is to clamp as opposed to enable. So how do we make sure that we don't have the mindset of control and overprotection, but to enable while providing guardrails? In 1 minute.
Thank you so much. And there's been a lot of questions in there. And I think it's the responsibility of the government to ensure that we create trust. We know there is a problem of trust, right, of government, because sometimes we develop these legislations and we, sneak in some provisions, right, that gives government the advantage or the higher ground to do certain things. And then there's lack of accountability. And I think we have to ensure that not just from the private sector, from the citizens, but us government, we're holding each other accountable. I should be able to hold OWA accountable, right? And to do that, we need to develop policies and avoid duplications. You'll see that relevant government agencies exist in various ministries, and you'll see that most of the times, they're doing similar policies or similar regulations or similar legislations. I think there is need for coherence. There is need for clarity among government agencies. So we have to work together, collaborate more, create awareness between ourselves, in the first instance, and make sure also we're communicating our policies in a way and manner that takes into consideration the population we have. We're a country of more than 250 million people. So that means whatever you're doing, whatever policy you're doing, you have to find a way. We have to find a way to create awareness, communicate what we're doing, create trust. If in fact we do a policy and we realize it's doing more harm than good, we should be able to admit, withdraw that policy, and then reinvent or recalibrate in a way and manner that makes it beneficial for Nigerians. Lastly, I'll conclude on this. We want to ensure that whatever artificial intelligence you're using in Nigeria is lawful, right? It has technical robustness, and also it is ethical. That will create trust in the AI system, and that we can be able to promote it as a safe technology in Nigeria. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much, Barrister Leo. Dr. Moody.
All right, thank you very much. I was just smiling to myself because those are not 1 minute questions, but I think just to very quickly say, for me on intellectual property, the question is this a time for us to refine or rethink authorship and inventiveness? And of course, I think there are a lot of questions that are coming in that light around what is new, what is original. So if I take the authorship lens, what the intellectual property system rewards is originality. And so your work should be original. That's what's rewarded. Recently we saw a situation where two players, I watch football a lot, and two players had just been transferred in their clubs, and both of them released identical statements, thanking the fans identical, word for word. Now, again, it questions. Now, when the first player released it, it felt like, oh, this was a heartfelt tribute to the club. Another player, and then the fans got angry that you couldn't even take the time to write something original from your heart. And I think when we look at a society in 5 years, 10 years, where we take out that element of originality, of authorship, then I think we're losing something for society. And this is where the policy questions are very important. When we use AI, what future do we see, and what kind of guardrails do we want to put around what we consider the human element? Now, on the issue of inventiveness, we, of course, are all familiar with the popular case, the Davos case, which it's the first case where an AI system was credited as an inventor in an application, on a patent application. And of course, you see that different countries approached it differently. Most of the countries said no. But you have a country like South Africa that says, yes, we will grant AI the patent over this work. And you can ask a question that, what does that mean? I mean, we've seen that not just in AI spaces, but like you look at, there was a Harvard case where the mouse, a mouse was created, and the American court grants the patent, but the Canadian court says, no, we can't, because of what we consider the ethics of giving a patent over a life form. In the same sense, I think, and this is tying to your question on the belief systems, I think culturally...
As you wrap up.
Okay, let me pause there. Let me stop there. But I think just in a sense, I mean, my thinking is, of course, AI is going to cause us to rethink authorship and inventorship. But I think we have to be careful not to take out the human element. When we do that, we lose the future. And I think this is the same thing that the other panelists have shared so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And sorry, I had to cut you there, but we really do need to wrap up. Professor Ladan.
Thank you very much. I think, in my view, rounding up, we need to underscore 2 points, and that is the responsibility to craft a national policy framework or a national regulatory framework or national framework on artificial intelligence lies squarely on the government of Nigeria. Now, but the government cannot do it alone, and I think this is where the element of inclusivity comes in. It is very important for the government to realize that developing, deploying, application and use of AI technologies must always be private sector driven, whether you like it or not. No, because it's about business, it's about the industry. So people need to invest in the technologies, people need to invest in the application, people need to also, make profit. But they need some actually guidelines, they need some assurances in terms of protection, and they also need to actually get that particular data privacy, and security intact. And I think it also leads us to the last question you asked, belief system. I think one of the reasons why government need to use a policy or legislative or regulatory framework to strike the balance between creativity, innovation, and societal values and norms, for AI to really actually build that trust that we need in any nation, is because the belief system are part of the societal values and norms. And this is actually where ethics comes in. The AI actually technology is being regulated not because government wants to be punitive. No, it's because government wants to protect other interests. And those other interests may lie necessarily in societal values and norms. And this includes, belief system. And what is it actually, that the nation must protect and strike the balance? It is possible that an uncontrolled and an unaccountable AI actually system that generates a decision, if it harms a particular societal value, which may include a belief system, then you are not creating a basis for trust in the AI application and even in the use of the AI technology. And I think this is actually why government needs to find a way of using its framework to strike the balance. You want to actually create a situation where businesses, invest and make profit, but you also have to strike the balance and make sure that, individual and community actually rights are also protected, including their belief system, which is part of the ethical considerations for transparency, for fairness, for inclusivity, and even actually for the right protection of all.
Please, a round of applause for this panel. I think they've done justice to the topic. We've talked about the AI policy, the fact that it's an imperative, who should shape it. We believe it's government across various agencies. Whose interest should it serve? The Nigerian people. How do we do that? Understand the scale of the opportunity, as well as understand what are our beliefs and values and what are the ethical considerations that need to go into that. And so, with that, I'll say thank you. Round of applause, please.
Thank you very much. Please put your hands together for our panelists. Before you step down, there'll be a photo session quickly. So please, thank you. And while the photo session is ongoing, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Bayo Ogori, the GM, Yoruba Channel NTA. Thank you for joining us. I also like to acknowledge the Manager News Current Affairs Program, Shehu Said, representing the Managing Director of Global TV Abuja, Aisha Larry Musa. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Photographer, please, don't go too far. Thank you very much. Please put your hands together again for our wonderful panelists and our moderator and our hosts. Thank you very much. Moving ahead quickly, we are going to the next panel discussion on the subtheme of economic opportunities, AI as a catalyst for growth. Before I invite the moderator, let me quickly invite members of the panelists, starting with Dr. Steve Ogidon, CEO, Successory Nigeria Limited. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Also, we have to have Mr. Paul Alaje, Principal Partner, SPM Professionals. I'm not sure he's in the house with us yet. Moving on, we are having Professor Uche Waleke from National State University, KFI. Thank you, Prof, for joining us. We're also having Mr. Sterling Ellis, President, CEO, Sterling Ellis Global Consultancy. Thank you very much, sir. And lastly, on our list of panelists, we have the Chief Operations Officer, Big Kaba Media, Anita Eboibe. Thank you very much. And our wonderful moderator will be none other than Nasi Inaji, CEO, Moneyline with Nasi. Please put your hands together for them. Thank you. And please, we have just 30 minutes. 30 minutes, please. Let's try to keep to time. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful panel discussion.
Okay, good evening, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I don't need to rehash what has been said. We're here to discuss a very important conversation, economic opportunities, AI as a catalyst for growth. It's been established here that AI intelligence, that is artificial intelligence, is no longer a distant frontier. It is here. It is reshaping how global economy and reimagining how industries function. I think it was Professor Ladanda also talked about it earlier in terms of how economies are being shaped by it now. For Nigeria, AI could either offer us a challenge or a promise, and the challenge of keeping pace with rapidly evolving our world. So today, our panel will do justice to this topic in the next few minutes, as we've been told. I don't need to introduce our panelists again. Of course, we know all our panelists, eminent ones at that. Let me start with my opening question. In one sentence, what do you believe is the single biggest economic opportunity that AI presents for Nigeria? And what is one policy lever that we must get right to unlock it. Let me start with you, Dr. Sui. In less than a minute, if we can.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In half a minute, I will tell you, if AI is not working for you now, it's already working against you. If you are not deploying AI in whatever you do now, you are behind schedule. What we need to insist on is responsible AI, ability to use AI to be able to protect the people, to be able to advance the course of our business, and to be able to make life more meaningful for our people. This is the missing link which we have seen, especially in recent times. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. At the risk of repeating what has been said, AI is already here, as has been noted earlier. And to the extent that AI can be deployed in various sectors of the economy, critical sectors of the economy, be it agriculture, be it health, education, human capital, and so on. To that extent, I think I see very big opportunities. And as a financial, somebody with a financial background, I also see very big opportunities of AI in the capital markets in particular. Thank you.
We'll explore that in just a minute. Dr. Ellis?
Thank you very much, Nancy. I think it underscores our general efforts to make sure that there is some trickle-down effects in terms of benefits to society generally. Within the financial space, I believe that having the youths in Nigeria to key into the use of AI is something that we need to take very seriously. I am currently engaged in the process of establishing an African Mercantile Exchange. I believe that it's a platform that will engage all of the youths in Nigeria, and of course the entire globe will be involved in trading on the African Mercantile Exchange. What are we going to be trading? We'll be trading in livestock, in financials, futures, options, swaps, agricultural products, rare earth minerals, petroleum, and energy. I believe that that's a game changer, and it's an opportunity for us to key into the value orientation of AI. Of course, currently we have synthetic intelligence that does not necessarily mimic human beings. And we've gone beyond AI. We are now into SSI. And so we need to make sure that we do not look at the regulatory necessity as being incredibly vital, but that the strategic imperative for Nigeria to experience sustainable economic growth and also to be globally competitive is very vital. The opportunities exist, and we can take advantage of them now.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Ellis. Over to you.
Okay, I hope this is working. All right, thank you so much for the question. I think the number one thing is just really productivity. In one word, it's just increasing productivity. And if you're not using that, and if we don't find a way to use that as a nation, that's crazy, right? The other thing in terms of what we should be paying attention to is African context and not being left behind in the gathering of context when it comes to artificial intelligence. So right now, a lot of things are very Western-driven. A lot of the results, a lot of the way that it works, a lot of the data. And so we need to ask ourselves, like, how are we ensuring that we're not lost in that conversation and that we are just a key part of the machinery that AI, whatever format it is used in, how we represented in that whole thing, yeah.
Okay, I like the aspect of productivity, but perhaps we'll measure productivity against laziness, because for some people, AI is actually making them lazy. I was having a discussion with Doctor just earlier. Perhaps he said something at the table. He said, if you are brilliant, AI makes you more intelligent. If you are lazy, AI makes you lazier. So perhaps if we have time, we'll go into that. But let me come back to Professor Waleke. Of course, capital markets is your forte. And capital markets, deals with
for example, can analyze many years of stock prices, 20, 30, 40 years of stock prices. So you have an algorithm that can analyze that, analyze trends in interest rates over many years, analyze macroeconomic interest rates over many years, analyze macroeconomic conditions. Okay, at the end of the day, this algorithm can even detect unusual trading patterns. So if you have an AI that can dictate unusual trading patterns, it means that from the point of view of the regulator, it's a huge asset. A regulator like Securities and Exchange Commission, for example, can use that to dictate, as I said, unusual trading patterns, insider trading, for example, and market manipulation can be reduced because it enhances monitoring. Ditto for the Nigerian exchange and other self-regulatory bodies. So essentially, from the point of view of regulation, to the extent that AI can help dictate those patterns, okay, it will help to enhance monitoring. From the point of view of investors, okay, it can also help to provide some smart investment, personalized advice, and that is very important to retail investors. Today, robo-advisors are robots that give you advice on investment, investment advice. So robo-advisors can provide that service. So from the investor's point of view, AI is now serving as a major boost. Regulators' point of view, the same. And also, as I mentioned earlier, from the point of view of issuers. So these are some of the benefits that AI has for the capital market.
For Dr. Guidon, Prof touched a bit on MSMEs. Given that MSMEs and agriculture are the backbone of our economy now, talking about MSMEs, of course, they provide about 86% of jobs in the country. How can AI enhance productivity, like Anita mentioned earlier on, market linkages, and access to finance for small enterprises and even farmers? What does an inclusive AI adoption strategy look like in this sector?
Thank you very much, Nancy. You see, within the agricultural space and the SME sector, AI can really help our entrepreneurs to deepen and understand the market and know where to channel their energy. And again, as we have been saying, AI cannot do it with MTN. We use AI to generate a pattern. AI informed us that flood was. AI did not say evacuate. Flood still came and carried the party away. So we need interface. We need human interface to tell if AI is telling you go and do this, AI should be able to tell you this is what you follow. This is what you should do after. The same thing. About 3 weeks ago, we had a webinar on microfinance and the challenges facing our people. I don't know how to protecting them. People borrow money. When we are borrowing, they didn't inform to create handshake between the various sectors, within the security, within the entrepreneur, within the country. And our green passport, very popular. Everybody was scanning the passports to go in. When I scanned my passport, it passed me on to an immigration officer. When I got to the immigration officer, the only question is, which hotel are you staying? When I mentioned, he said, you can go. As I was going into the cab, my phone rang, and I was on the phone. And I didn't tell the taxi driver where I was going. It was immigration between these mass. We must remove the middlemen using artificial intelligence of market linkages. The cost of food is rising, not because of production, but because of the middlemen. AI can do a whole lot of things, and interpretation of this data will help us to be able to reduce the cost in the market. Thank you very much.
Fantastic one. Dr. Liston, let's come from a global perspective. And how can Nigeria harness AI to create inclusive opportunities that bridge and not widen, as it is, the digital divide? And what frameworks should guide us in ensuring that AI-driven growth translates into holistic development rather than leaving people behind?
Well, that's very good. I believe strongly that for investments to flow directly into Nigeria, AI has to play an indispensable role. In Nigeria, the capacity to absorb the amount of money out there for investments is, of course, insatiable. And for us to get to the point of harnessing and taking advantage of that opportunity, we need to optimize our use of AI. We need to train, reskill, upskill our youths and those of us who are in the workforce. We need to be able to understand the trading mechanisms that are out there for us to be able to be aware of how to take advantage of them. We need to train within the curriculum framework of the high schools, universities, colleges. We need to adopt AI training tools that would, in education, so to speak, that would allow Nigerians en masse to be able to access these possibilities on a global scale. In Nigeria, Equity Plus Investments has come up with a software that they use to optimize portfolio management outcomes. Nigerian companies, for example, Recovery Max Financial has come up with a way of optimizing debt collection through AI use. Fintech companies in Nigeria are upscaling their capacity to reach investors through AI without having to have a one-on-one discussion with a potential investor or somebody who needs a loan. So we are doing well, but we need to really escalate, the knowledge asset, the understanding of that space, so that we can take advantage of all of the investment-related opportunities out there. I know that a Nigerian in Nigeria can, in the future, when the systems are perfected, be able to have access to funding for a project in Nigeria without having to go through a lot of rigors and challenges.
All right, thank you very much. Anita, Nigeria's creative and media industries are very powerful engines of soft power and GDP contribution. How can AI tools position the Nigerian media and also Nigerian creators to scale globally? And do you think that there are ethical red lines now that we must guard against to avoid exploitation and cultural dilution? The first panel, they'll talk about belief systems. So what are the things that we need to guard against, to avoid that cultural dilution?
Yeah, I don't know how many people you've noticed now when you Google something, there's a summary that comes out immediately. And like more than half the time, the summary is like to a foreign publication, right? So you can be looking for something, say you're searching for what is lending, and like it's going to then give you what is lending, but it's going to summarize from here's like a foreign publication or here's like a foreign service you can use. And to answer your question very simply, and why I brought that example is we're very, very far removed from the making of these things that we're not able to impute, our own like footprint and our own like just data into these things. So an example is, again, other countries, for instance, the New York Times, they're planning to sue OpenAI for curling its data and like putting it on these summary pages. And that's not a conversation that we are having at this moment. What we're doing instead is that we're still thinking about it in terms of, does it make my reporter lazy? Does it make the staff in my office who has written a letter with AI lazy? Instead of thinking about, what does this mean if half the world is on the internet and they are searching for information and I am not represented in the summary that is getting to them? Or if I am represented, how am I getting compensated for that summary that is going there? So there's a lot of data engineering work and just like context work, like I said earlier, that we need to do when you think about media as soft power. And I think that we're just very deep in the depth of, looking at it from a data center perspective, from a how do we bring one grand policy around data perspective, that we're not thinking around the information architecture of what this looks like. what are people going to be exposed to? Are we in the room where the thing is happening? Are we having our own like African context or Nigerian context like very represented in these places? Are we having one-sided conversations? And until we have just a robust, thinking around this, what's going to happen is that the world is going to move on, and you will get bits of it in other areas and other industries in Nigeria. So there will be data represented and so on. But from a media perspective, you would almost be erased because nobody is summarizing. Nobody finds whatever you're doing useful enough to bring it out for other people to see.
All right, thank you very much, Anita. We have about 5 minutes to end this panel. So let me just go around again, and I'll begin with Professor Waleke. You talked about market algorithms, robo-advisors. I'm actually curious to know if you worry about market volatility being worsened by AI, or whether it will be like a stabilizing force moving forward.
Yes, so answer your question pointedly is actually going to be a stabilizing force, because AI also has the ability to predict volatility, to predict market risks. I'm very much excited about the deployment.
But doctor said something that he told the farmers to harvest, yes, but he didn't tell them to remove.
Yes.
So there's a risk there of market volatility.
Yes,
Prof.
Yes, I agree with you, to some extent. But let me say generally, that my excitement derives from the fact that if AI is deployed to the capital markets in particular, it will really go and achieve the $1 trillion economy that we seek. Recently, we had the president talk about, achieving revenue targets. It has set for this year in August. And when I read that, what came to my mind was whatever we're even getting, can only be used to, meet recurrent spending. The real money we need for, capital, for infrastructure, can't come from our regular budgets. It can only come from long-term capital, which something we get from the capital market. And if you look at our capital market today, we still need, have a lot of, potentials, a long way to go. In terms of debt, for example, we are not yet there. And I think that is one thing the AI will do, because that means AI will help, crowd in a lot of retail investors, a lot of these people that are yet to come into the market. Today, for example, you buy shares, it takes you 4 days before, transaction is consummated, or you sell, it takes you 4 days before you get your money. With AI, that can be done, instantly, okay, in real time. Today, as we speak, the US SEC, the US Securities and Exchange Commission, is already using AI to flag, suspicious transactions, and that, of course, goes a long way to boost, confidence. So I think by the time we deploy AI in, the entire capital market ecosystem, it will go a long way, to reposition our capital market and also ensure that government, of course, can leverage that to achieve the, $1 trillion economy that we seek.
For Dr. Gideon, do you think that there's a danger that AI-driven financing or even automation can widen inequality? And let me speak within, let's say, the agricultural space or the agribusiness space, whereby it will favor large agribusinesses against smallholder farmers. How do you think we can prevent this?
Thank you very much. I don't think it will give any disservice to smallholder farmers. For every good thing, there is always the other side of it. What we need to do is that we need to be intentional. We know what is it, what problem are we trying to solve, which aspect are we going to address, what do we need to get to, how do we get the right AI to be able to do the job for them and to be able to give them access to the market and to be able to turn competitors to collaborators. AI will turn the small farmers to be able to partner with the big farmers so that they will be able to know who needs my product, what do I need to produce, where do I need to move it to. And if we keep on doing this, it will make the economy to be robust. But in our area now, if we must tell ourselves the truth, if you go to other countries, there are some sites you die, they will say your village people have come. We need to die, they will say your village people have come. We need to be intentional about
to leapfrog AI, something unconventional that will set us apart. What would that be? Because we are so used to adopting, but what would that be?
Well, I would say that in order to recommend to the Federal Republic of Nigeria what they need to do, we can pretty much agree that an AI policy is indispensable and that the regulatory framework and the support that's necessary is also very vital. So they need to key in on training, making sure that the infrastructure is in place, making sure that the appropriate workforce is available, data centers are also available, and that we take national development planning very seriously. Like I would say, in addition to having an AI policy, we also need to start thinking about synthetic intelligence policy that would pretty much be more independent and is less expensive and requires less expertise and is something that Nigeria can explore on a mega scale. As transcontinental capital markets professional, I believe that AI, SI are indispensable tools for sustainable economic development and global competitiveness. Thank you.
Finally, Anita, how do you see AI, foreseeing AI democratizing access within the media and production space, or even the media production space? I think I was watching TV some months ago, and I saw, was it Alex O? Or so, one of those musicians said he did a video production based on AI, the first video production, music video on AI. So how do you see that democratizing the space or consolidating power, perhaps even in the hands of big platforms and tech companies, leaving local companies behind? I would also like to add this. How do we balance the efficiency of AI-generated content with safeguarding originality, cultural authenticity, and even jobs in the creative space?
Thank you. I don't know that AI is going to democratize the space. And I know that it's a word that we like to use a lot. I think that what it would do and what it's currently doing is it's just going to increase margin for error, because unlike other industries where you need to replicate the same thing, so what AI does is that it helps you, it makes you more efficient in replicating. Media is quite touchy in the fact that you need it to be authentic, right? And so what you then need really, and what media companies are currently using AI for, is that you have the base of authenticity, and what AI does is that it just simplifies the process for you. That is for people who are actually doing media. Now, what we've had in this space, and we're seeing it in, and it's going to get bigger, is that people who don't do media and who just want to spread falsehood, who just want to be very mischievous, you need a storytelling policy, and just safeguarding what AI does and what the boundaries of that are. We should not be carried away with the democratizing of it. What you instead want to do is that you want to train people who are actually
the likes of IBM Cloud, Oracle Cloud, and so on. I think that is a very welcome development, and that's because of the fact that the AI is as good as the data on which it is trained. So it's highly commendable.
Thank you very much. So please, another round of applause for our panelists. Please clap for them well, because we did this in less than 30 minutes that we're given. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please rise for a group photograph. Photographer, please, over to you. Madam Leah. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our wonderful panelist, moderator, and host. And now we are at the end of the event for today. And we have come to the highlight of the day, which is we'll be cutting our anniversary cake. So we will kindly please, all members of the high table, please, you'll be needed for our cake cutting. Please just, sorry for the stress, kindly come to where we have this our banner. All members on the high table, please. Also, Mr. Bayo Ogori, okay, kindly, you are still here with us. Mr. Shehu Sahid, if you are still here with us. Mrs. Farida Abdullahi. Abdullahi for me. Mr. Ruben Okala, if you are still here, please join us for our cake cutting. Thank you, Downtown Band. Thank you.
I might not call all names, but as I mentioned earlier, there are three profound people in my life in this room that I would not fail to mention them because they made me see reason why research must be part of my life. Professor Waleke, Professor Laden, Dr. Joe Abba, they've taken me to be their family. I also want to express my appreciation to the three media houses that have been running my program. That is Captain TV, Global TV Nigeria, and KSMC. Thank you. You guys have been doing great and wonderful by me. Thank you. I thank the media community, which is my humble community, and my associations are here. I thank you for the support and for the sportsmanship. I thank you, my panelists and moderators, the crew, the lovely music band, and just everybody here. I'd say thank you. For most of us as Nigerians, and one of the questions, unfortunately, the technical issues didn't allow us to get to listen to Brian. Brian Brown will always ask a question after the conversation, what next? Because he believes it's not enough to call people in a room and talk. It will always be the what next. So that is for him. And I began to imbibe that culture from Brian from the first time I met him in Washington. And he asked me the question, after the meetings, what next? What are people taking back home? What are you adding? What value are you going with? And the what next is the kinds of things we try to pull out of every conversation on the policy with Leah. And so this entire event is going to go beyond the just talking to the what next. And so we'll be engaging a lot more with NIDA and all the other agencies, but that is not just it. What is in it for me as a communicator is getting the Nigerian system to work. It works for us when we are part of the solution, not always part of the problem, which is the concerns around most of the things we see. Everybody is looking at problems. Nobody is looking at solutions. So I guess we're going to have a better society when we are part of the solution. If we keep consuming, for instance, in the media space, consuming information that we can't differentiate which is genuine and which is fake, including professionals like me, we can't differentiate them, then it means that the issues we have will continue to repeat themselves. The what next, we're going to communicate the what next, but certainly it will be a what next where the minutest part, if there's any word like that, of the society gets to feel that they are part of the governance structure. If we're not part of the governance structure, then that feeling of exclusion does not give result for policymakers. I thank you very much for spending this amount of time with us. God bless you all, and I wish you a safe journey to your various destinations. And until we come again, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nancy. Yes, I wouldn't forget Nancy, because I think in this whole TV space, it's been Nancy, and Bosin had to send in his apologies because he had to go for the IATF, else he would have been here. So thank you very much, everyone, and God bless you. Please eat our food before